Yeah, your 10 minutes start now.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Good afternoon, General.
Good afternoon, Honorable Khanyile.
I'll go straight to your statement. In paragraph 26, you indicate, if I'm looking at your statement, you say that subsequently, still in January, and after your discussion, January 25, after your discussion with Lieutenant General Khumalo whilst in his office, Lieutenant General Sbiya also inquired whether you had engaged Lieutenant General Khumalo regarding the transfer of the PKTT case dockets to your office. And then, looking at that inquiry about Lieutenant General Sbiya, according to you, what did you read in that inquiry? What was he trying to say with that inquiry? Yeah, with Lieutenant General Khumalo and his present also. Can you say?
Thank you very much, Honorable Khanyile. Sokhanyile, I apologize, Honorable Member. Honorable Sokhanyile, when General Sbiya spoke to me, I took it that he assumed that General Khumalo spoke to me, because at the time he said this, he had not spoken to me. So this was the first time that he was raising the matter. So what went in my mind was that maybe he was following if I understood what General Khumalo was saying, and if I am going to comply with that request to General Khumalo. Because remember, the initial instruction was General Khumalo must give me the dockets, but not to me, from General Khumalo to myself.
Okay. But reading further, your statement, in the next paragraph, you are saying that as much as yourself with Lieutenant General Khumalo, you have talked about this informally, but you didn't want to indicate to Lieutenant General Sbiya that you have talked. Why? Why didn't you say, no, we've just talked casually about this? Why didn't you want to, as if there's something you wanted to say that in this one, I don't want this one to know. To me, it seems it's like that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sokhanyile. If maybe we read it again, actually, I did not hide that I spoke to General Sbiya. And I did respond to him that General Khumalo spoke to me informally. Informally means that there was no official attachment to the discussion, because he had a letter and I didn't. And I think for that reason, I then asked that if he wants me to act as General Khumalo received a letter, he must do the same to me. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay. Then in paragraph 29, you indicate that according to Deputy National Commissioner's letter sent to you, that letter is annexure HKS4, the directive by the minister was based on an assessment which concluded that PKTT no longer made significant contribution to the broader policing effort. Are you aware of any assessment that have been undertaken on the work of the PKTT that is maybe looking at their performance that it can be even penned down to say that there was an assessment?
Honorable Sokhanyile, and I think I did testify to this earlier, that there was no assessment that was made available. There was just a mere mention of the assessment. And I think in my response, I even said that the IMC would have then had to look at that assessment. So as far as I know, there was no assessment conducted in this regard. And if there was, we never received, I personally never saw the report. Thank you.
If an assessment maybe has been done, would you say that assessment was done by the minister or by the NC?
An assessment is in the purview of the operational heads. So, for example, as we provide progress to either the ministers or the national commissioner, that is an assessment of, for example, if you are intervening on political killings, or let's say contract killings. In the assessment, we are saying that the threat has been stabilized, or the threat requires us to continue with our efforts. So it is not the minister who then provides an assessment. It is actually the operational heads, and probably led by the national commissioner, who then provides the assessment to the minister, to the ministers, who then deliberate, and based on that presentation, they then take a decision whether the threat has been stabilized or we can proceed with the interventions.
If the minister has been given a report, a particular report by particular general, to say that they are no longer needed, this PKTT, then wouldn't that be an assessment that the minister can talk about?
I do agree with you. It could be an assessment, but still it would require discussion with all the relevant role players. Thank you, Honorable.
Because to me, if I'm a minister, you come here as head of particular areas to give me a report assessing the situation, that on that corner it is like this, then I will have a conclusion or a recommendation to say, if we are saying like this, don't you think there was someone who have given the minister a briefing about the performance of the PKTT?
Honorable, if I may say, let's say that happens and the minister is given a briefing. The minister still has an obligation to call all the operational heads to say, I have this assessment in my possession and this is what it indicates. Can we either engage the author to clarify to us how did they get probably to the conclusions, or maybe can we engage and get ideas from the floor on how do we proceed with the matter? I don't think there's anything wrong with an assessment, but I think how you take it forward, it cannot just be General Senthumule doing it. I will have to call my component heads for us to look at it and see how we can take it forward. The most significant part that is said in the statement is that it is no longer making a significant contribution to the broader policing efforts, because that talks now to organizational direction moving forward, meaning that you don't prioritize this matter anymore. So definitely a discussion is required for something as monumental as the statement. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay, in paragraph 32, you refer to the National Commissioner's proposal of a winding down disbandment plan for the PKTT. And further in paragraph 33, you indicate that it was not feasible to implement the handover process within 7 days as instructed by the DNC. Were you agreeing with the winding down approach?
I was agreeing with the winding down approach because it made operational sense.
Why did you think it was not feasible to implement the handover process within 7 days then?
I explained earlier, Honorable Sokhanyile, that to disband or to decommission, you have to take into account other processes. There are 5 competencies involved in any task team that we have. And that's why we would call it a one-stop shop. So if you disband, as you actually do your interventions, you generate dockets, that is, which will lead to investigations. So by the time you decide to disband, you need to assess how far are those investigations. If, for example, some of them are ongoing, definitely you cannot say you're going to disband. You will then have to give the investigators more time to investigate, place the dockets on the court roll, and upon conclusion, then you can assess. I think, like proposed here to say, once the investigator is done with an investigation, then he can go back to his place of origin or station of origin. So for that reason, it is not possible to just disband a structure like that.
In paragraph 39, you are saying that during the deliberations regarding the implementation plan on the disestablishment of the PKTT, you indicate that the DNC was not pleased with the approach of keeping the court going dockets with the PKTT, arguing that would imply the team was not disbanded. Further, that the National Commissioner and Lieutenant General Musikidi were not in support of the DNC's approach, but rather supported the retention of the court-going dockets with the PKTT, as the handing over of those dockets would adversely impact upon the court processes. Were you not concerned about the displeasure of the DNC on the implementation plan?
Thank you, Honorable Sokhanyile. I'm not sure if I said this to this meeting earlier, that in this process, we are guided by what is operationally sound and correct. It's not about the sentiments of the individuals. It's about how do we serve this process moving forward. So I wasn't as much concerned, because at the end of the day, as an investigator, he would know that it is not an easy thing to do, to take a court-going docket, which means already it's on the court roll, to give it to someone else, because it actually affects other processes, including your chain of custody. Thank you, Honorable.
Okay, in paragraph 42, you indicate that the DNC insinuated that, if I can quote you, I was now like Lieutenant General Khumalo, and I was you were dragging your feet in implementing the minister's instruction. What was your view about this comment that he made, that you are now like Lieutenant General Khumalo?
For me, it was a matter of forced compliance, to say that if you don't comply, it means that now they will, maybe the minister himself and generals and chief of staff will then conclude that I'm also anti-implementing the instruction. That was my reading of it.
Does it mean that even Lieutenant General Khumalo was anti? Because here, the DNC says you are like Lieutenant General Khumalo, then you are saying that it would mean that you were anti. You didn't want to, in other words, you didn't want to implement the minister's directive. So it means that Lieutenant General Khumalo was seen as a person who didn't want to implement that directive.
It was the DNC's assessment, and that's why he was insinuating that way.
So it is the DNC who had that
Yes.
about yourself and Lieutenant General Kuma,
Yes.
meaning that you are in one cabal.
Honorable Sokhanyile, I want to submit to this House that this process has actually pinned the police against each other, and I think we are seen to be either for.
Having facts.
And yes, and as I said, that for me the truth and the process should prevail. It is not, and I did say, it's not about General Mkhonazi, it's not about General Sibiya. It's about what is the correct procedure for us to go through things. And unfortunately, I think as you respond, then immediately you are attached to a person. From where I sit, I think I serve the organization.
In paragraph 46, you indicate that after the meeting of the 27th March, 2025, you were upset. And you remember asking the National Commissioner why the dockets should come to you. The National Commissioner responded that it was because you are the head of detectives. Is it your view that the dockets were not supposed to come to your office? I understand that you said the dockets, they were supposed to be taken to subs. You have said that, but now you are discussing this. Who should have taken those dockets to subs? Because I see this as someone who must be given the dockets. Then you take them to subs. Why were you upset about that?
And I wish to state, Honorable Sokhanyile, that I think my response was emoted in the spur of that moment. And the National Commissioner was correct to say that the dockets should actually be taken by the head of detectives, because it's not about Kosi as a person of General Senthumule. It is about a process. But I think in that spur of the moment, you actually wished you didn't have to find yourself in this particular position.
Then what happened to the dockets?
The dockets eventually, I think, were handed over to me, and I think eventually back to KwaZulu-Natal. So they are now in KwaZulu-Natal.
You just put them in the safe and close them. Thank you, Chair.
No, they are being investigated. Thank you very much, Honorable Sokhanyile.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is it you, Honorable Nqola, or Honorable Sangoni?
Thank you very much, Chair. Quick. You say there was a February 2022 meeting that has extended the term of the KTT existence.
Yes.
Are you aware if the minister was actually made aware of such a resolution?
I wouldn't know, Honorable Nqola. I have never said in any meeting where the PKTT was discussed, where the minister, the National Commissioner was. So I wouldn't know if he was made aware.
Yeah, I'm asking because the minister testified here and said the PKTT wasn't supposed to have existed beyond 2022. In a nutshell, saying it was now irregular beyond 2022. What's your take on that?
My take is, again, if he says it was irregular, it should be backed by a meeting with a decision that then said the team has managed to stabilize political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. And I think as a structure, together with the DGs, including the National Commissioner, then they would have said that there's no further requirement for the PKTT. I gave an example of a project in one of the provinces where that assessment was reached and a decision to decommission was taken. And again, as you decommission, then you take care of specific elements that requires extension and you disband those that don't require extension.
Okay, so you say you have solicited a threat analysis against a police officer who was testifying in a high-profile corruption case. After they assessed the security assessment, the risk assessment, security assessment, whatever it is, you then managed to get the police officer and the family protected. So was this the complaint against you at IPID? Was it related to that?
It was related to that.
Who was the complainant?
General Sibia.
General Sibia complained.
I think he said that there was fraud committed in my office because these members actually, they were said to be protecting him. And another allegation was that I'm surveilling him using these same members. I remember I spoke to NATCOM to say, are you aware of this particular matter? And Mr. Commissioner said to me, yes. So I told him, but are you aware that this is the matter about Captain M? And he said, no. I said, yes, General. So for me, I don't know where the misunderstanding was in relation to that.
Do you think it was a misunderstanding?
For me, it was, because for me, General Sibia had just come into the organization. And I think in matters like these, executives, let NATCOM call us and then discuss. And instead of, I work with you directly. And how do we then move forward? You open a case against my office. There's no suspect. You say that the suspect will be picked up as they investigate, So maybe as a person who actually was pro-teamwork, I felt really offended. And I thought that it was uncalled for.
Do you think IPID has been weaponized? Yeah, sorry if I put in a corner.
Yeah, it is a corner.
I'm asking because we have received numerous allegations about IPID since we have started this work.
Maybe I can respond to it this way, Honorable Nqola. I actually think that the law enforcement agencies could be weaponized, not only IPID.
No, I'm specifically asking about IPID because we have received numerous testimonies that are directed to IPID.
Can I take it to me personally? I've never had an incident where probably I had an issue with IPID being weaponized.
Do you think that your current case at IPID was it a genuine complaint against a police official? Or General Sibia is trying to weaponize IPID to fight battles between you and him? Just be frank. We're here for that.
I wouldn't say no, but I would not be informed.
So there is a possibility that there's a weaponization of IPID?
For me, there is.
Okay, thank you. So you were dancing at a party with Mr. Nqola. He testified here. And said he only went to, is it the same part of the engagement of the General Sibia's son?
I think it is. I didn't go during the day, during the ceremony, but I came later. So that's why I
Okay, when you were invited on what?
There was
you are hereby cordially invited to attend this and that.
There was no formal invite. He just said he's got a ceremony at home and he would like for us to attend. Yeah, Saturday,
Okay. So, under oath, Mr. Nqola testified that he only went there to pick up his wife. You sat next to his wife.
Yes.
Did you notice her being heavily drunk such that she can't drive?
No.
So it was, according to you, according to your observation, it's not true.
My observation was that she was sober, she was engaging, and she didn't come to me across as a person who was intoxicated.
Okay. And what was your observation on Mr. Nqola? Was he part of the guests invited or he was a passerby?
Honorable Nqola, in the spur of this moment, because General Tema only pointed him to me, and if I was sitting this way and he was standing over there, he was just standing. I didn't even pay attention to what he was doing, but he actually was a guest because for me, he looked like a
So it's not true that he went as a passerby to pick up Mrs. Nqola. Okay. You're saying there are trust and uncomfortable issues between you and General Spear. What's causing that? Because you are working in the same office, for God's sake.
I will start by his testimony at Madlanga Commission when he was asked, and he did accede that he's a person who really changes. His emotions are not constant. With General Sibia, he is a very good operative, but he can change today. Let me start it from the beginning. When he was appointed as DNC, I was the only person not invited to his celebration, and I think celebrations after that. General Khumalo and others would go. Then later on, General Khumalo doesn't come. Now I'm invited, So you would think that actually you are working and then suddenly then he changes. Now this is where tradecraft comes in. Then you need to, employ your defensive.
What makes you uncomfortable with General Spear?
His ever-changing mood, and I think his approach to you as a person, and the fact that today you can be in his good books and you're working well, and then tomorrow suddenly something happened and you wouldn't know. He wouldn't engage and say, General Senthumule, I am concerned. There are the issues.
But you attended a number of Spear's parties.
As I clarified just now, that initially I was not a guest, but when things turned south with General Khumalo, then I now was an attendee.
But you always ensured that there is company on you when you attend.
I'm not one to mix work with pleasure.
Then why do you go to parties? Because parties are leisure.
Yes, in the spirit of building a team. We were crime detection. General Khumalo and General Sibia.
So you were detecting crime at parties?
No, definitely not, Honorable. It was just in the spirit of building a team and supporting a colleague.
But a colleague you are uncomfortable with and you are not trusting.
And I would never be comfortable with. I have never been comfortable with.
Okay. Divisional Commissioner, Detectives and Forensic Services. Do you accept that it was highly irresponsible of you to facilitate a transfer of dockets you don't know what they contain?
No.
Okay.
In this environment, we work on a need-to-know basis. And I think when it comes to certain entities, when a case is opened at a station, it is opened on the subsystem. However, for DPCI and IPID, they already have functions on the system where a docket can be moved over to them. But with IDEC, it's only now that we are working on that particular.
So you mean it was responsible for you to transfer dockets to IDEC without you knowing what they contain?
If I could be a suspect,
even if it would have been a treasonous act.
Yes, I could be a suspect in those dockets. And I think it's not about IDEC. It's about the principle of need to know. If I need to know, somebody would tell me. But normally, let's say my son is a suspect, my husband is a suspect. So sometimes, and I think I've learned from intelligence, if you compartmentalize, if you need to know, you definitely would need to know. And again, if you go to the Section 28, particularly.
But General Senthumule, you didn't even know how many dockets we're talking about.
There were 4.
You said there were 4, but you later discovered that there were actually 6 or 9. I don't know.
7, yeah.
7?
Yes.
So do you now accept that it was irresponsible of you of transferring police information to a different institution at NPA without you knowing the number of the dockets taken, without you knowing what is contained in that docket?
I would still remain with my answer, Honorable, that in my capacity as the DevCom, I did not have to know the contents of the dockets. And transferring dockets for me, it's not about police information. It is actually law enforcement information. So if IDEC writes it down and says, these are our dockets, I am not the one to say,
Where were these dockets kept?
They were in General Jacob's office.
Safe.
In his safe, yes.
Where do you normally keep dockets?
Dockets are kept at a station.
Why were they in a safe at someone's office?
And I think that's what General Jacob.
Are these dockets the dockets of Honorable Adams?
I checked yesterday.
So it's Honorable Adams' case that
Yes.
was kept in a safe.
Yes.
Do you think that he is justified to think that you were sabotaging his cases?
Not his cases. He was not the IO. As you can see, the dockets actually
Is the
belong.
complainant. That's the point. He went to open cases, 3 police stations. He went to. And he says to us, he was testifying, he's still going to testify today. He was testifying that he has went to 3 police stations on the basis that he felt that you, police of South Africa, are sabotaging him. That's the reason he even went to an extent of going to IDEC. And you come here and confirm that the dockets he opened a case on at police stations were kept in a safe of someone's office, not where dockets usually get kept at SAPS.
I was not part of any sabotage, and I think I wouldn't accede to that. And I would agree with you. And I did say this over and over again. The dockets are not supposed to be kept in general's offices.
Okay. You did your medical operation on the 16th of October 2023.
Yes.
On the same day in your bank account, you received 13,500 and you received 70,000 rands. What was the source of that money? The same day.
It was not receiving. Let me clarify.
Beg your pardon?
I beg your pardon?
It was not what?
It was not receiving. Those statements means it's money that has gone out.
Okay.
As I explained it, I gave all the evidence to the evidence leader. Part of the money came from my police bonus. That's the 13,500. You can see on the statement, the amount is more, but when that money goes down, the amount goes less. But on the same day, from my credit card, I transferred 80,000 into my African bank account. And on the same day, that money went into my check account. So the 7,000 you see, it's the money that came into that account. Then on the same day, it went to pay Dr. Pett. So there is trace of the money. It never came from anywhere.
Dr. Pett is the responsible doctor?
Yes.
Okay.
And she's passed on. She's passed on. God rest.
She's passed on?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, may her soul rest in peace. Lastly, do you know the extent of the relationship between Mr. Mandlala and the General Shadrach Sibiya?
I don't.
You work together, you party together,
Yeah.
you mingle together, you drink together, you dine together, you dance together. Do you know the extent at which they are close?
Can I say this and say this to the whole world? I don't dine with General Sibiya. I don't dance with General Sibiya. I don't go anywhere with General Sibiya. Yes, maybe there were those parties, but for me, it was not like a personal thing that we are friends. I would say the same. I would say something like that with General Tem, whom I'm always with, So I wouldn't, there were lots of people in General Sibiya's house. I mean, you can ask. And sometimes we would sit with them, with the National Commissioner, we would actually wonder, but who are these people, because there would be a lot of them. But I don't know, and I've never seen, even on that day when Mr. Matlala was there, I didn't see General Sibiya talking to Mr. Matlala, because, he was there, it was in everybody's view. So I don't have a comment on that.
Thank you. Chair, I'm done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Honorable.
Thank you, Kos.
Nkos.
Thank you very much, Chair.
It is 1:15.
It is 1:15. I will be done at 35 past. Thank you, Chair.
25.
35 past. If not sooner. General Senthumule, thank you.
No. Can we allow the honorable member to ask? What is the question?
What is the procedure that allows?
No, it's a point of clarity. Wa bona hore wa thoma ke bolela wa bolela.
No, it's
Ke re wena o thome wa bolela nna ke bolela.
Ke re point of clarity. Do ke nyako e buisha ko.
me who allows you to speak.
Okay. I want to understand Urna, ANC, then they are done. Because we're not going to have a second round.
Once they are done, they are done.
Oh, so we're done. Okay. That's what I wanted to understand.
Can go again if you like. Thank you very much, Chairperson. General Senthumule, okay, I've already greeted you. I heard you calling Honorable Nqola into order for not greeting you. We've become very skeptical in this committee of praising people. Sometimes it backfires. I think the one person who's still dedicated to it is Honorable Souls. But I do want to put it on the record that we've seen a number of generals from the South African Police Service, many of them women, and I think that it is something that we should really acknowledge and applaud, especially even just looking through your CV. I think it's a very distinguished and impressive career record. So I wish you more strength in the work that you do, and thank you for the service to the country. I was a bit late this morning, Chair, so I'm not sure if General Senthumule had introduced who is accompanying her. Okay. Can I just ask, why is Major Van Rooyen not here? She has accompanied most, if all, of the Lieutenant Generals.
Thank you very much, Honorable Sangoni. She actually was with me throughout. However, remember the sitting was for last week, and she is traveling today with her family on holiday. She won't even be here when the National Commissioner appears.
Okay, so it's not like you're dumped.
No, actually, during Madlanga, she sat with me throughout with the consultation about I think up until yesterday, she was with us.
Okay.
Yes.
Now you are acting DNC.
Maybe can I also add that she even texted me to say all of the best.
Okay. No, that's fine. You are acting DNC crime detection since 1st August 2025. Is this Lieutenant General Spears' post? Were you appointed when he was, is he suspended? Okay. Who was DNC before Lieutenant General Sibi?
It was General Njinga, and who retired.
Okay.
And before her, General Tsumani, who also retired.
Now, how was General Sibia appointed? Because at some point you were all on the same level, right, as DivComs for the different components?
In actual fact, if I can just clarify, when General Sibia came into the police, I had just vacated my office as head organized crime. That post became vacant. So in his victory based on the court outcome about his employment with SAPS, then he came into that position. So in essence, he came and reported to me.
Okay, and then how then did you come about to report to him?
In the police, there's lieutenant generals, and the DNCs are actually your super DDGs. And all of us are DDGs. Then there's Major Generals. So the National Commissioner and the Minister can take somebody at Major General level. If they feel that that person will suit to the post, then that person is elevated. It could be over you.
Is there a process, General Senthumule? And I'm asking this because, I mean, we heard people complaining about how General Mkhwanazi was made an acting national commissioner. So was there a process that is followed to move General Sibia from head of
organized crime
to a DNC?
We have a policy, actually it's part of our directives, which is called Section 45. So a national commissioner can approve an elevation of a person without advertising the post, I think based on the minister's approval.
Is it effective? Don't you have fallouts amongst yourselves on that thing? Because it means I just look at you, I like you, I decide you must be DNC.
I think that the downside of it is exactly what you are saying, because it could be open for abuse.
Is it open for abuse, and has it been abused now?
I've never actually implemented it or been near the process, maybe where I became the applicant for somebody. So I wouldn't know, but I can safely say that it is open for abuse.
It specifies criteria, no?
It does specify. Remember, there are requirements for a person to occupy certain position. So there is a motivation that is forwarded to the minister for his approval.
Okay. All right. Let's move. Dr. Pat, your doctor, sorry. And please, General, don't ever stand up and twirl for anybody. You have a right to do what you please with your body. But I'm interested, is this Dr. Pat, who's your doctor, the same Dr. Pat who Mathys was Dr. Pat's mother's driver?
Yes, that's what General Tema told me when she introduced Sangoni. Because I already knew Dr. Pat is General Tema's friend. I think they come back a long way. So in our interaction, I knew Dr. Pat, and I think there was a situation where one of her employees passed, Richie, and I think I had to accompany Sandra to the memorial service. So that's the same Dr. Pat, yes.
So Mrs. Sangoni,
yes,
was a driver.
That's what General Tema informed me.
How did you meet Dr. Pat?
Through General Tema. They were friends. I think they stayed in the same estate as well.
Okay. Okay, let's move on to issues of the PKTT. So now, were you...
Sorry, Honorable, I think I did say General Tema is prepared to actually depose an affidavit on all the issues that he wants to clarify.
No, that's fine. I suppose for me, it's like such a coincidence, right? Mm-hmm. Well, firstly, I didn't know Mrs. Mathys was a driver. And then it's a coincidence that she then just happens to be a former driver to the mother of the doctor. Yeah, I mean, yeah, okay. The ministerial directive, were you surprised by that directive when you eventually got to know about it in the letter of the 4th of February?
I think it only surprised me when General Mkhwanazi was not in the picture. Like I said, that when we were in Parliament on the 5th, we were with the minister on the 6th.
No, but when you were told that the minister said disband PKTT, what went through your mind about that?
It's an instruction that I understood the history of the PKTT because I was part of the process. But if General Sibia says it is an instruction, however you feel, you have to comply. And not only to me, General Khumalo also was given the same instruction.
Okay. Okay, you said, I'm quoting you here to one of the questions that the honorable members, you said you understood the instruction. This is now when the minister was unhappy, you were not undermining his authority. But you then also say he had no mandate or authority to disband PKTT. So which one is it? Because you specifically used the words, I understood the instruction and I was not undermining his authority. I suppose I'm also asking this because somewhere else you say the letter then legitimized the instruction for you. So what is your understanding? I mean, you were busy carrying out this instruction. Why now would you then suddenly say he has no authority?
Where the problem arose, it's when I engaged General Mkhwanazi as the ultimate custodian of the same documents that I have in my possession. I think for me, that's when I realized that the process was flawed. For example, if General Mkhwanazi was involved, we could have continued, you know. But the fact that he now says, how did they get there? And if you bring them here, I will not be responsible for them. You know, and I did say that for me, it becomes...
So if General Mkhwanazi had been involved, then, you know, like the National Commissioner, you were of the view that the minister could issue the directive, he had no problem. The National Commissioner's problem was the how part of it, and your problem was the exclusion of General Mkhwanazi.
If he was involved, he would have probably okayed it because he was consulted. At times, the PC would not necessarily come and sit with us at head office, but if he's in the know, he would okay the process.
How did you forget General Mkhwanazi? Because you and General Khumalo were running this process. You said you agreed on steps to be followed. Would you not, in drafting your plan, have General Mkhwanazi as part of the stakeholders you must consult?
As I said, on the meeting of the 5th of March, General Mkhwanazi was in attendance. So my assumption was that he already had been briefed. And remember, I was on leave when this whole process was started. General Mkhwanazi, General Khumalo, General Masemula, General Rabi were meeting General Sibiya. So when General Mkhwanazi was in that meeting, in my mind, I read that actually he was part of it until I spoke to him.
Okay, I'm sorry to be rushing you. I agreed on 20 minutes here. Before the Madlanga Commission, Lieutenant General, I think it was Sibiya, says that you expressed the view that the PKTT was untouchable, and you alleged that, in your opinion, the task team was being used to siphon the budget allocated to it. Can you just give us your view on that? Did you express concerns about the PKTT in the budget?
On this, I would like the committee to hear me for what I say. General Sibiya, throughout, he would actually really, and I said that he was actually strategically recruiting, want you to agree with him. And I think in that discussion on that audio, I actually employed what I would call your counterintelligence defensive approach to say, I'm going to feed him whatever he wants, disinform him, because it was no help. Why I'm saying that? Because if you look at what he said and the documentary evidence, the following day, I called General Mkhwanazi and I went on with business as usual. So for me, he wanted to corner you to be able to say, yeah, no, this is wrong. So I thought, you know what? I'm done with this guy.
Bangani, that he would even go to the extent of recording you and take it to Madlanga?
I don't know. And I actually feel that I don't want to get into the pigsty, with him. And I want to be above the situation. I think my conclusion even had a quote about forgiveness to say maybe he needs forgiveness. There's an English saying that had people, maybe I had him with my testimony at Madlanga. Maybe he actually assumed that actually I was working with him.
Just for the record then, General Senthumule, are you saying that you reject a notion that says you don't believe that the PKT was genuinely engaged in effective policing? You disagree that they didn't deliver any meaningful investigative outcomes. What is your true reflection of the work of the PKT?
I believed in the work of the PKT. Hence, even today, I still work with them. As I said, it was part of my counterintelligence. General Sibiya must be off my back. I mean, there was a point where I said, redeploy me, So for me to survive, I thought, okay, let me handle him this way. But my feeling is still that I never expressed in any document to say I don't believe in it. I never even signed their request for extension for detectives.
Okay. Why do you think General Sibiya was putting pressure on you to get those dockets? Did you ever ask him why he was so eager to obtain these documents?
He's not a person you can ask. If his mind is made up, he's adamant. So for me, there was no reason to ask him.
Okay. I think Honorable Nqola has already canvassed a lot of the issues around the IDEC. I just want to know how did those documents get to General Jacobs safe?
From what I gather, he took them from the province, from General Khumalo's office, General Mbuso Khumalo, not Domisani Khumalo, the DPC, and were given to Colonel Phillips, I think then to General Jacobs, and he kept them at his office in his safe.
Why?
General Mkhwanazi and I, when we were discussing this matter, even General Khumalo himself, we asked ourselves as to why. It's something that I cannot respond to. And as I said, there's no police.
To push you, General, because you are the supreme leader of all dockets in the country.
Yes.
If something like this happens, and I mean, you've had a bit of time now, we need to know why General Jacobs took those dockets.
I wouldn't know why. but I can tell you that it was not practice. Hence, I even asked his own division to put it down writing to say, even in their line of work, they are not encouraged to actually take the entire docket. I can give examples where, let me say now, during the PKTT investigations, when Colonel Khumalo and the other members are looking for linking dockets, we request the province and we write there that they must give us copies of the dockets, not the original dockets.
So he takes these dockets, we don't know why, then he gives them to Colonel Phillips, then he puts them in his safe. All of these are breaches. What has since happened to General Jacob since all of this has come to light?
I would like to start this from the fact that when the docket story was discussed, my assumption were these. When I think of IDEC, I'm thinking State Capture, I'm thinking Zondo Commission, I'm thinking ESCOM, I'm thinking Transnet. I was assuming that these were those dockets, but I only learned later that actually it was based on a complaint to the minister and National Commissioner from Honorable Adams to say that these dockets were not getting joined. So that is how he got involved in the process. Hence, I said, I don't think he did anything wrong. Safe to say he wasn't supposed to keep the dockets in his safe.
Okay. Through you, Chair, can we request that SABS provides us with a comprehensive report on how these dockets have ended there and also consequence management for what is clearly a breach? My last two questions, General. You testified here that Advocate Andrea Johnson called you after, not sure if after the testimony or...
Way after.
Yeah. Is it usual for her to call you, and what did she have to say?
Advocate Johnson and I worked together for more than 10 years. We've chaired the CIT committees, we've chaired committees on organized crime, we've attended training together. So we actually not necessarily talk, but we would interact. And after her testimony, I just shut down because I felt that 2 minutes of engaging with her became the center of her testimony. So one of the things she wanted to know, why am I quiet? And then I clarified to her that actually, as you were testifying, here are the issues, and I felt that you were supposed to clarify. For example, when you get a docket as a prosecutor, you go through a diary and you see what should be is contained or actually done on the. You're not supposed to say no, but SABS is supposed to check. I mean, this is a chain of custody thing that you're talking about. So the reason she came was to understand why was I like shutting her out.
Okay, but in truth, Advocate Johnson threw you under the bus. And from your testimony today, it's clear that she lied as well to you and to this committee. Did you raise that with her, and what did she say?
I raised it and in earnest to say she supposed to submit a clarifying affidavit to which she agreed.
Okay, which we have not received, I suppose.
And actually she promised that before I appear, she would have submitted it. So I'm
sure there's no clarifying affidavit. Bonan? No. Okay. Maybe then finally, General Senthumule, given everything that has happened, and I heard how passionately you replied to Honorable Sokhanyile that you are not part of factions, will this management of SABS ever be able to work together again? Are you seeing yourselves at least trying to find one another? Thank you that you did put some recommendations, but I think I'm also worried about the human and the leadership element that we have. Will you be able to work together, and what do you think needs to be done to ensure that that happens?
My approach to the question would be based on why are we employed by SABS? Why is there government in the country? Why are there government departments? How do they synergize and for us to be able to deliver a service to the communities? When we serve, we don't serve at our behest. It is actually at the behest of the people of this country. So how we feel or how we see each other should not be a determining factor of us moving forward. I think for me, we are here for a reason. And if, for example, some of us don't belong here, then let it be. But if we are not progressive, we actually affect even those who are coming after us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you, General Senthumule.
Thank you very much.
So,
Chair, when I raised my hand earlier before we start, I wanted to make a follow-up of what Honorable Malema has raised with you to say, unless things have changed, normally we used to have 2 members from us, from the ANC, from MK, and others, they'll have 1. Wait, Chair. Wait, Chair, please.
Nomvalo has spoken to me.
No, I'm not talking about that, Chair. I'm saying the normal procedure was that you will come back. I think I was the last but 1 from MK after Shongwe and Honorable Nomvalo in the second round. Now, hence he was asking, what has changed? Maybe now that all of us, it's once and that's it. Did you understand, Chair?
I understand what you are saying.
Thank you. So we just wanted clarity that if that has changed, it's fine.
It depends on the flexibility of parties.
Thank you, Chair. Now,
Honorable Sangoni.
Sorry, Chair. Sorry, Honorable Skhosana. I thought that, exactly what you're saying, because we decide how we allocate our time. If we wanted to come at the end, I just want to make sure that our understanding is still correct. If we wanted to go later, we would. We just exercised our right.
It works on flexibility. Honorable Nomvalo approached me and requested to come last, and I have agreed.
Yeah, it was not only about Honorable Nomvalo approaching you. We just wanted to find out that we still have that formula which we had before. Because before it was the first and the second round, not the third round, Chair, this time.
Yes, no, that approach is still there.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Lieutenant General.
Sorry. So, good afternoon, Honorable Skhosana.
I just want clarity. The first one, you said that the National Commission and the Minister appoint a person to a post following Regulation 45. Am I right? But that is wrong. I think we must agree on that one because that's political interference. Because the Minister is not empowered to perform any administrative function, any human resource function. Am I right?
Honorable, yes, you are correct. And I said that the Minister approves. So the National Commissioner applies and the Minister approves. And it's not only the paradigm that the Minister approves. There are a number of things that we do where the National Commissioner becomes the applicant and the Minister approves. And I think
at what rank, if I may ask?
I think 45, if I'm not mistaken, goes throughout all the ranks. So it's not tied to a specific rank. I have seen it being applied from people who were at, for example, colonel level, they would become brigadiers.
So the Minister is empowered to do that?
Actually, the National Commissioner is empowered. The Minister has to approve. And I think it's all about concurrence.
So if the Minister doesn't approve, what happens?
Then it doesn't happen.
So you won't be appointed? Because
I think there is, if I'm not mistaken, I'm not really okay with it much, but the Minister has to concur with your senior appointments. Though even if he doesn't, the National Commissioner can go ahead and appoint.
Hence I'm sitting on that one to say, as far as my understanding is concerned, is that the Minister cannot stop even if he doesn't approve the appointment by the National Commissioner. Thank you. And I wanted to ask a quick one before the issue of this SAPS National Inspectorate, which does your internal oversight division, it's a division within SAPS. Is it still in existence? Does it still exist?
In the new structure, it is not there. However, functionally, it is still there.
Yeah, because why I'm asking you is because there's a lot of problems about police stations around the country, and I think you know that. And I think they've dropped the ball, because the complaints which we get from the portfolio committee as well and as members of parliament, it says that it does not exist at all. Let's start by... Let me start now as well. I just wanted to find out the clarity on these matters, and thanks for the clarification. And I hope that in the future others will know exactly what is happening within the police force. The police service, there's no more force. When did you first become aware of this allegation by Lieutenant General Nqola regarding the interference in the organized crime investigations, and what immediate step did you take upon learning of them, if any?
On that 6th of July briefing that he had, it was the first time that I got to learn about those allegations. And I also wish to submit that at the time, I had reservations that probably could have been done differently. But I think upon realizing and also seeing what is coming out of this, I actually saw an opportunity for the organization to redefine itself. I can imagine if it didn't happen, where would we be right now? You know, so if maybe I normally say to people that the badge, which is the police badge, decides who to kick out. And I think in this process, my analogy was probably the badge got tired of the rot, and the moment had come that we begin to purify the organization.
So you reckon that the ocean cleans itself?
Beg your pardon?
You reckon that the ocean will cleanse itself?
I don't think so. I think it requires people who can go in and begin to remove the chaff.
So in other words, you agree with what General Nqola did on the 6th of July by exposing all these issues and raising them, you know, for the nation to understand the problem which we are encountering as a country?
I would say, as a person who didn't know, now that I know and I've seen, I think I would agree with what she did.
Now, as an acting Deputy National Commissioner for Crime Detention, do you confirm that the units which investigates crime ultimately fall under your operational oversight? The organized crime units, they ultimately fall under your operational oversight?
Yes.
Do you agree on that?
Yeah.
Now, are you happy with what is happening in that, in organized crime units?
Can I also talk about organized crime in general within the law enforcement, including DPCI? I don't think we have actually scratched the surface. Yes, we do have takedowns, we do have successes, but in my view, we are not dealing with the people whom we would call in organized crime high flyers, the people who can't explain their income, the people who can't explain their assets. Many a times we will deal with the low-level people. I think that's why we are not necessarily succeeding in neutralizing organized crime.
Now, my following up question on that, do you think General Sibia interfered in that organized crime unit?
In what way? Sorry, Honorable Scott.
No, what I'm saying, as you said yourself now, that we have not scratched, you know, the question now will be, we didn't scratch the surface as yet. Do you think there was any direct or indirect interference by General Sibia when he was heading the detection?
To actually agree with you would mean that General Sibia is the alpha and omega of organized crime in the country, and he is not. Maybe the element of what we see now, but I think broadly, we can all do better. It's not attached to one person. I mean, this is just a drop in the ocean, but I think the organized crime issue is a problem. That's why it is prioritized as well.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm asking about General Sibia. It's not personal. It's more about accountability as a head of the Deputy National Commissioner responsible for that. Hence, I'm asking whether do you feel that there was any interference by him?
I think the only time I can speak with certainty is when there are findings around all the allegations. But I think for now, I would not be able to comment on that.
At any stage, did the Minister of Police communicated with you formally or informally regarding the investigation on operational decision related to the matters raised by General Mkhwanazi?
Not at any stage.
Were any investigations into organized crime, political killings, or syndicate halted, slowed, or reassigned during your teenager as an acting deputy commissioner? And if so, who authorized those decisions?
If we are talking, for example, dockets around your PKTT, I will start with some of the dockets that we actually had to move. From the DNC had an outfit in his office that was conducting investigations. So those investigators had to go back to their respective units, and those dockets were reassigned. Depending on the nature of that investigation, it was assigned to a respective responsible unit according to that commodity.
You know, I'm trying to find if there was any operational obstruction, whether from IDEC or IPID, not necessarily IPID, IDEC in particular, or within the units at such. So you say there was nothing at all?
And that I know of.
Now, can you point any factual inaccuracies in General Mkhwanazi's public briefing? And if so, what's the documentary evidence do you rely on in case there's any?
General Mkhwanazi,
I just want your evidence of your opinion on this one.
General Mkhwanazi gave out allegations, and I think it is up to the investigating arms who are responsible, have been tasked with this particular matter, to be able then to sift what is factual and what remains allegations. But beyond that, I cannot make an informed opinion.
Are you satisfied that the current command structure within crime detection has protected investigation from political or any internal interference?
I think for me, until we actually conduct maybe a climate assessment, understanding the impact this has had on policing, then we can actually dissect the areas affected, and then we can see if some of the insulation has been compromised. Only then can we then say we can be able to heal what has happened.
In preparing your affidavit, which operational reports, investigation files, or official correspondence did you rely upon? And can you confirm they have been provided to this core committee? Like you have submitted a very comprehensive with some attachments.
All those came from my environment, save from the one that came from legal services in relation to the IDEC matter as well as inspectorate, but also particularly on supply chain, I relied on the national instruction.
If any organized crime investigation were compromised or interfered with, will not that fall within the oversight responsibility of your office as an acting deputy national commissioner for crime detection?
Certainly. We have had...
So you take the accountability on that?
Yeah.
What measures, if any, were taken by your office to protect officers who reported alleged interference in investigation before these matters became public?
I think I spoke at length in relation to Captain M, but also we have had other officers where we would ask for security, particularly when they conduct their investigations. One of those is to deploy a combat team to all complex investigations.
You said that you've engaged Lieutenant General Jacobs and informed him about the request from IDEC. I think that's Advocate John Johnson, as you said, she's going to send us an affidavit. Requesting IDEC for the dockets in his possession. You said you requested that Lieutenant General Jacobs hand over the dockets as he is not supposed to interfere with the criminal matters because he'll be charged with defeating the end of justice. And you said that you submitted that neither Lieutenant General Jacobs nor Advocate Johnson gave you any details about the docket. You only knew about the dockets in relation to arrest of Lieutenant Khumalo. So that was for the first time that you know about this matter.
On the 26th, and I think it was a Saturday,
26th July, yes.
I came back, I think a day before, outside the country. I think I was in Tanzania. General Mkhwanazi called me. That was the first time that I knew that those dockets actually were responsible for the later arrest of General Khumalo.
So the arrest of General Khumalo was not about the lady who was recruited from BMW?
From what I read in my discussion with him, it was in relation to that. But like I said, I didn't know that actually those dockets were the ones which were responsible for the investigation.
So as we speak here, General Mkhwanazi and the other members were arrested for these dockets, or were they arrested for the being sitting in that panel for the appointment of Brigadier?
Yeah. The arrest of General Khumalo and in Mathys and General Mkhwanazi, it was about that matter of sitting in a panel. But in that list, there were dockets of General Lushaba, General Madondo, that also I've learned afterwards. So it was not only General Khumalo, it was also the senior managers from CI.
Now you only became aware that the legal opinion was obtained and signed off by the Divisional Commissioner, Inspector, on the 11th of December 2024. There was a post that requested for my intervention by ADEC, and after my engagement with Divisional Commissioner Inspectorate, the one I asked about earlier, you've attached the annexures here. Now, when there was your intervention, what was the response from Advocate Johnson?
As I said, Honorable, mine was just to facilitate. So they had to go get the dockets. And I think once they received them, she said to me, we have received the dockets.
Now, you spoke vividly about the issue of the police when Honorable, I think, Sangoni asked you now to say, you said that perhaps it's time for SAPS to reset. Because it looks like there's function within the top echelons of the South African Police Service. Do you agree?
When I say the affections, it means that I am saying that we are actually using our functional powers to perpetuate differences or wars. I've seen generals who actually walk the talk, and most of them you wouldn't even find Honorable Nqola in parties. I wouldn't say their affections. Yes, there are differing views, but I think in this particular instance, maybe there were two worrying people, which led to people defining the factions.
Now, my last 2 minutes, because we don't have data today. This issue, of Paul O'Sullivan, what's your take? Has he interfered in terms of how SAPS should run, whether it's top echelons, whether it's IPAD, whether it's IDEC, or the criminal justice system as a whole? Like at the NPA, we found that he was paid 100,000 instead of being paid 23,000 for whatever service, the DCPI. In your view, what's your take? What's the role of Paul O'Sullivan in this mess which we find ourselves as a country?
First off, he's not part of law enforcement. And in my day-to-day engagements over a period, I've never engaged with him. So what you hear panning out is also what I hear. In my space where I work, I've never had a situation where I had to deal with
him.
Yes.
Now, you heard him saying that he's opening dockets.
I heard
and
that.
Take it to the police for police to sign.
That would be irregular from whoever would allow him. I think there are processes on how we register dockets, and civilians are not allowed.
But he said it himself that he was doing that for all the years. He took one target to Mandla Mahlangu from IDEC as well. But he's been doing that for many years. And he was boastful when he was sitting here to say he opened door. And I asked him several times, and I was shocked that the police have allowed him to do that, to be law unto himself, because he's not a policeman. And I'm saying, as such, what are you going to do with that? Because you know that now.
We have engaged legal services. I think the matter is currently under discussion. As I was not there, I think the better part of last week, so I will only hear General Kamal and Van Royen when I sit with them with the National Commission.
And speedy recovery to your son. What you said earlier here, that your son, unfortunately, because of what happened around you, and we don't, though our kids are things are innocent, they don't deserve to be affected by all our mishaps in life and all our trials and tribulations. And may the good Lord help him to recover as speedily as possible. I thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable. Thank you very much.
Honorable Sols, do you want to comment on the last remarks that Honorable Skhosana has made?
Chair, the Bible says, if two agrees on earth, shall be so. I want to agree with...
I don't know if he's listening to you.
I want to agree with Honorable Skhosana. Amen. Hallelujah.
He has not listened. May you repeat what you...
He doesn't need to listen, Chair. He doesn't need to listen. It's about the atmosphere. What he said and what I say in the atmosphere, it shall be so. Amen. In Jesus' name.
May you say, hallelujah, Honorable Skhosana. Thank you so much. Honorable Barnerd. Your time starts now. Your microphone is not on.
Beg your pardon, I thought, yes, you are. I'm sorry, I can't see the lady at all. I'm terribly sorry. If you could move. Thank you so much. There you are. Hello. Good afternoon. Let me start with the elephant in the room. In paragraph 103, you say that Major General Tema suggested that you should approach Matlala for a donation to the SAPS. But it was surely clear to you that Ruzi Kat Matlala was deeply involved in serious criminal activity, specifically as a tenderpreneur linked to organized crime and contract killings. Now, we all know that around May 25, he was arrested for allegedly masterminding a botched hit on his former partner, actress Teboko Tobejane. And yes, you had approached him for a donation a year before that. But even then, he already had a long history of arrests dating back to 2000, including a 2001 conviction for burglary. Now, of course, the 2025 arrest, combined with revelations of 360 million rand fraudulent SAPS tender and his role in a criminal syndicate, firmly established his status as a major criminal suspect. Now, the question has to be, don't you look into someone before you ask for donations from them? How many times must a person be arrested before the SAPS distances themselves from him or her? And where was your due diligence in this instance? Even the smallest entity does due diligence so that they don't find themselves in the headlines as being in the thrall of criminals. And here you were, a highly experienced police officer, highly, we've looked at your qualifications, and you had no idea and you did not bother to check. I would like to know what the SAPS protocol is in this regard and how you, at the level you are, had the wool pulled so successfully over your eyes.
Thank you, Honorable Barnett. And I think, as I said earlier, that our over-reliance on supply chain, I think we burden supply chain. At the moment, and as I said, it was a hasty request, and I think because of the time, I didn't actually see anything wrong. I didn't read anything wrong. I didn't hear anything wrong. There were no issues that came to my attention about Mr. Matlala. So if there was a lapse probably in judgment for me, I will take that rep. But I think supply chain for me at the time seems sufficient to say they would then vet. If they okay, it means the person is fine or the company is fine.
Just to point out, Google is your best friend. You could have done a 3-second search and you wouldn't have had this issue even being raised. The Sabaya accusation that you weren't taking the PKTT disbandment seriously, speak to that. What is he on about?
In my view, and I think it will also show with the others, General Sibiya, within crime detection, wanted all of us to actually walk with him this journey. And I think that there was an instant where he even said to me, and I think I've got WhatsApps that I removed, where he said he knows now where I stand. So you are working with a person constantly who doubted you, who didn't trust you. So for me to be able to move forward, I was sticking to process and I was saying something else to him. And that's for me, as I said, it was part of my operational tradecraft handling of General Sibiya to be able to walk through. Because if you listen to what he said versus the process, you would see that actually there is a disjuncture there.
Okay, moving on to page 103, there's a reference to CAS 1650/10/2, in which there is a claim amongst others, that Lieutenant General Nqola, for example, instructed other senior members of the service to ensure there would be no investigation into the alleged theft of Major General Shaba's official firearm, cell phone, and laptop by a sex worker. And it's alleged that the sex worker was paid off using funds from the Secret Service account. Now, the SAP's finding internally was that there was no evidence provided, therefore there was no charge. In such a matter, is it not the job of SAPs to do a cursory investigation of a matter, or would they expect, in this case, the MP to investigate the matter personally?
In my view, I thought there was a criminal matter already registered on the same matter. And I think the 4 dockets that I spoke about, one of those was in relation to General Shaba when I, after the fact, read I think some of the summaries. So in my view, there is a criminal matter that was registered. And I guess that's why actually he was also arrested at some point.
Yes, indeed, there is a criminal matter, but the internal finding was, well, there's no evidence, so there's no case. So that you understand they're diametrically opposed, and that, from my experience, is a very typical outcome. Okay, moving on. Now that the PKTT has been disbanded, to your knowledge, what's been done in terms of transferring the, I believe it's 96 members of the PKTT to other divisions? Where they've been relocated? The plan initially proposed that 68 of them be retained to finalize the 60 cases in court. Of the other cases you list, for example, 43 not guilty, 96 declined to prosecute, 9 undetected, and 35 awaiting constitutional court decisions. But there were 60 over. There were listed still, I think, 114 matters that were defined as court going. So I'm trying to reconcile the 60 cases to the 114. Is it possible that dockets perhaps include multiple charges? If you could explain that, please.
The team is still in existence. I can safely say that they are carrying the same dockets and more, because as they investigate, they link some of the dockets. For example, there was one in Mosina for a CIT. There was one in Gauteng for, I think it was for hijacking. And so more work is coming into their space. We are facilitating that. So the team, I think, as per the action plan and what we did and post Nqola's press briefing, the team was not disbanded. The team is operational, and General Khumalo is still the project manager.
Okay.
And those members are still within the team.
Yes, that's what I thought. You said in paragraph 62 that there were deep emotions associated with the dockets from the PKTT. Why do you think that was? Deep emotions in relation to a docket?
In my history in law enforcement, and I've been having to deal with some of these things, this has been the most emotive matter in policing, for those who are for and those who are against. And I think from where I sit, I just wonder, out of all matters that we are dealing with a priority, why only this one? No, but I'm not getting any answer, save for what I see panning out in the public.
You said in paragraphs 65 that both Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi and General Mathys distanced themselves from the issue of the PKTG dockets. Now, surely that's an issue they should have been on top of. I don't understand why they would simply step back or walk away.
General Mathys testified, I'm not sure whether at Adok or at Madlanga, and said that he actually engaged General Sibia to say that those dockets should not be at head office. So when I called him, I guess he was surprised as to how did the dockets get to head office. Hence he said, General Sibia must see to finish how he deals with it. General Mkhwanazi, on the other hand, was not aware that the docket actually were removed from his province into national. So for that reason, I think they both felt that actually this is not what we have to deal with. We didn't start it, and therefore whoever started it must deal with it.
But this is the National Police Commissioner. Surely it was his job. I mean, just say, I wash my hands of it and walk off seems a bit odd.
He didn't say I wash my hands. I think because he gave General Sibia an instruction to say those dockets should not be at head office. So probably his response was based on, I gave an instruction, no action was done, and therefore you can't bring it back to me.
Okay, I see you have great admiration for Minister Nqola, calling him one of the best ministers you had ever experienced as your political principal, and that he spent much time capacitating the detectives and wanting a plan from you and others, I presume, to further capacitate them and to go ahead with the re-enlistments of former detectives, something we suggested in the Police Portfolio Committee some time back. Do you think he would have disbanded what seems by all reports to have been an enormously expensive unit in favor of other entities without giving it due consideration?
The letter that I read from the DNC said an assessment was done. I've never seen the assessment, and I think if that assessment was there, I would be able to say maybe he did give consideration, but for now I can't respond because I don't know what informed that decision, because more so in the absence of an assessment.
So your opinion on standing back and looking over this whole debacle, what do you think the real motives were, if there were different motives from the obvious?
Minister Mkhunu came like, I think, my English is just running towards Natal. Minister Mkhunu, in my interactions with him, and I think with the National Commissioner being there and the others, he actually was focused on advancing the organization, So this side, discussion, decision, letter, I don't know what informed it. And I think for the love of God, I don't even know how to dissect it.
You referred finally how it would have been different if Lieutenant General Mkhwanazi had been included in the process of closing the PKTG, which you now have confirmed has never been closed. Why do you think he was excluded from the process, if indeed he was? Because I know we saw the movements in the Portfolio Committee and you brought various reports down the line. But that initial decision, why do you think he was excluded and for what possible reason?
Up to the time when I spoke to him, my thinking was, as the person who's the custodian of the dockets, he's involved. And for me, the process should not even start without. I referred to the previous minutes, which I said to Honorable Mathys, could be asked from National Commissioner, where General Mkhwanazi would be the one who will lead the discussions on the PKTT. So if you disband such a structure, at least the least you can do is to be able to refer back to him.
Thank you, Chair. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable.
Honorable Klopper.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good day, General Senthumule. How are you?
Good afternoon, Honorable. I'm great. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. I would just like to thank you first for coming here to assist and considering what your family is going through. It is acknowledged and it is appreciated.
Thank you very much for your consideration.
I'll start with a few direct questions, General, because we're here because there's been many allegations of widespread interference in SAPS and other institutions within the criminal justice system. You earlier said that there's this narrative that you are either here or there in terms, and I think we were speaking about factions at the time, and sitting here day and night, it seems to, or at least for myself, that there's a glaring split. And I'm not sure if I correctly captured you just earlier on. You said that there are no factions. I just want to hear, are there factions or are there no factions? Just categorically so I hear you clearly.
I have not observed any factions in the police.
So there are no factions.
I've observed people in conflict, which will then spill over to other people. I'm not sure if that you define as a faction.
Yes, you know, General, I think I asked this because I think it's very important. Because if there is a split, these individuals that are causing the splits, are they just for personal gain? Because there can be no ethical justification by splitting SAPS into camps and divisions. Do you believe that SAPS has been infiltrated or improperly influenced by any individual or organizations? And I want to clarify, I mean any individual, whether it be Kat Mhlala, whether it be ministers, whether it be ex-ministers, whether it be politicians.
When I look at the police, I look at it like I look at supply chain, where supply chain tenders would drive people's relationship with service providers. In the police, the dockets and other environments like supply chain would attract wrong people to people who are in power. So for that reason, I do believe that there is a possibility of infiltration, maybe the scope of which we will then have to further investigate.
General, you're very high up in SAPS. You're very high up in SAPS. I mean, you're not on the street. You are a senior officer. Are you saying you just think it's a possibility? Or do you know of anything and you're just not willing to speak of it publicly?
My issue would be on providing evidence, because if I say for a fact that yes, there are affections, then I must say, yes, there is influence, then I must say, where did it happen? Who was involved? So at this point in time, I do not have that, save to what we see playing in the public space. So I can't really speak on authority and confirm such.
In your belief, do you think the NPA or IDAC has been compromised in any way?
Again, it is based on what we hear. I have worked with IDAC, I have worked with the NPA, and in my tenure, I've not come across such incidents where I would feel uncomfortable because I would feel that they are captured.
Do you think IPID has been infiltrated in any way by any individual or any organization?
Yes, I think my response to that earlier question was that actually all law enforcement agencies are susceptible to infiltration. So IPID is not safe either.
Did you only receive the written response from General Sibiya on the 4th of February? And why do you think there was a delay in the correspondence from General Sibiya getting the documents and the instructions to you, considering his testimony that he perceived it as immediate disbandment, it meant immediately? Why do you think it took him so long to start getting those documents to you, and then still left out documents like the letter from the minister and so forth?
My reading into General Sibiya's instruction was that he actually spoke to General Khumalo in my absence when I was on leave. And but he expected Khumalo to give me the dockets. And when Khumalo spoke to me, I mean, he had an instruction, I didn't. And I think I made it clear that I will not really start a process without anything in writing. So whether it took fast or slow for General Sibiya, but eventually he also had to instruct me as the receiver of those dockets.
Do you think General Sibiya understood the instruction incorrectly? Do you think General Khumalo dropped the ball, giving you the instructions late?
I don't think so.
You don't think which one? Do you think General Sabia misunderstood the instruction that it had to be so hastened, or do you think General Nqola was at fault in not giving you the?
I think neither, because General Sibia, when he gave General Nqola the instruction, it was specifically for him to give the docket to me, but I was not engaged. So for me, it's neither nor for the both of them.
You spoke about the minister's letter, I think it was paragraph 29, was based on an assessment. And I just want to make sure that you said what the assessment was he alluding to? And if I understood you correctly, you said you never saw this assessment.
The assessment would have referred to probably our efforts yielding results or not, and determining whether the project should proceed. So that would be an assessment that would inform him to say, according to this report, there is no more a need for the structure.
This assessment was given to the minister, am I correct?
According to his letter, he said he had assessment.
So when we asked the minister when he was here, he indicated, he came to this conclusion on his own on the 31st of December, the night that the letter was sent. That nothing, it was his own mind that informed him. He never spoke of an assessment that informed him up until that point.
Because he wrote the letter, I think then he will be in a best position to say, why did he even put it in the report in the first place if it was never there?
I question you on this because you did mention that you were with with the IMC and so forth from the beginning, and that's why I thought you might have a little bit more insight to this assessment because you were there from 2018 in the IMCs.
Yes.
So you're saying you're not aware of this, you don't know of it?
In actual fact, with Minister Mkhulu's tenure, I've never sat in a meeting where any PKTT matter was discussed.
You spoke about Lieutenant General Sabia said that you're just like Nqola, you're dragging your feet. And you seem to believe that you were aligned with General Nqola, that the approach that you were taking were correct, not as a faction. And the minister and General Sabia seem to be aligned in their expectations. So if I may ask you plainly, were you implementing the plan as you should have? And what was agreed upon on the dates agreed upon? And it can be a simple yes or no.
I would like to take it further because I want to provide context. For me, the roadmap was based on the implementation plan. Hence, I said it didn't have to do with emotions or whoever feels what. When General Mathys was compiling his affidavit in response to General Sibia, he called us in and we were sitting. And I said to General Nqola, but why didn't you tell me about these serious things? And one of the things he said was, we didn't know who to trust, So for me, being between these worrying people, I don't think Sibia definitely didn't trust me. Nqola also at some point didn't trust me. So it makes it difficult for one to function. Hence, I wanted this thing to be over and done with.
Can we just pause there for a second? You're saying that General Nqola didn't know who to trust, and you're saying General Sabia didn't know who to trust. So if there was no factions, why would anybody of the generals have this feeling of trust issues with each other? It's one unit. It's the SAPS.
If you may maybe fast forward back to General Nqomala's testimony, where General Mathys' testimony, both of them, where they said in January they gave a report to the minister on General Sibia's activities. That is not a faction, that is report on crime. I don't think we have to emotionalize crime and make it about people, So, sorry, my question was based on if such important things are happening, we were supposed to be called in and briefed so that we are aware, But because of General Sibia was seen as a suspect, General Nqola was investigating, But that doesn't mean that these are factions, because there's actually issues of criminality that is being discussed. So in my position, I think you said something where now you just have to focus on the truth, because if you focus on the people, this side says they are targeting me, this side says the other one is not kosher.
I think where it becomes a split is when you have many people jumping on a bandwagon within the same SAPS, not seeing criminal activities, and you have a very same SAPS with a whole bunch of people jumping on the other bandwagon, despite possible evidence. And I think that is where I'm talking about a glaring split. So it's not about emotionalizing crime. It's that a whole group of SAPS members seems to back a certain individual and a whole group of SAPS members back the opposite. And I think that is where the question comes in. But we'll pause there. Did General Mathys have an agreement with all the time frames on the transfers of dockets, etc.? Because you and General Nqola were running it. Did General Mathys give his blessing and was okay?
The plan was presented to the minister, and General Mathys was in that meeting. So when I said that it was tentatively approved, General Mathys also was in that meeting where the approach as we presented was approved.
When General Nqola, and I think I heard you correctly, you said General Nqola started venting in a meeting on the 27th of March. You said it, and the meeting was prematurely ended. This was when 121 dockets was discussed. Am I correct?
It was the minister, not General Nqola.
Was the minister. Who ended the meeting prematurely?
It was the minister.
All right. So the minister, did he basically present and then cut himself short?
No, General Nqola was presenting.
Yes.
And I think with the issue of the figures, which were diverse from what we presented earlier, then the minister thought this meeting can proceed.
Okay, I understand. So General Nqola was still doing the presentation, and then when he started speaking about specifics, the minister ended it. You spoke also earlier on about other matters requiring your time, as well as that of General Nqola, and it's completely understandable. And if I listen to you, you spoke about earlier, General Sibiya is not the person that you could question. Were you able to ventilate and find solutions around your time constraints? Or were you pushed into a corner and you were told, just do this? Or, you're just as bad as Nqola, you're dragging your feet. Is that's the impression I'm getting? If you could just clarify.
General Sibiya does not hide the fact that he wanted those dockets out of the PKTT. I think he did ventilate on this matter here and at the Madlanga Commission. So me not moving, actually, I think probably got to him and he tried to push me in whatever way, even if it was to a point of maybe saying that now I'm like, Khumalo, I'm not listening, So he was adamant that actually those dockets must be out of the PKTT.
I just want to move because I'm just worried about my time. I think it was in paragraph 92. You spoke about the first time you saw and the only time you spoke to or met Kat Nqola was at General Sibiya's private party in September. And I just want to make sure that was Nqola invited by General Sibiya?
I was invited by General Sibiya. I don't know. Remember, I didn't know them at the time.
So you don't know who invited him?
No, I didn't invite him.
Okay.
And maybe can I, Honorable, say this again? People have sat in this chair, and those who know Nqola, they have agreed. I don't have a reason to say I don't know a person that I know.
No problem.
Thank you.
If Kat Nqola was present, did you understand him to be known to General Sibiya? Was there anything at that party that made you feel that they had a relationship? Just from observation.
Yeah, from observation, I never saw anyone get close to him or talk to him. He was just standing there. And for that matter, I don't know for how long, how disappeared. I know we stayed there only for an hour with General Tema and we left.
And then General Sibiya ever questioned you about your connections with Kat Nqola before making, I wouldn't say allegations in the testimony that you kind of knew him? He made that reference. I think it was in your paragraph 92 of yours.
Yeah. General Sibiya and I never discussed Kat Nqola before, I think, his arrest. And I did write it here on my statement that the only time General Sibiya called me, and it was at night, when Kat Nqola was arrested. And he said to me, "Batsweri chumia Senra," in Sotho, meaning that the PKTT have arrested Senra's friend. So Senra is my friend, General Tema. So I asked him, which friend of Senra? The only friend I know of Senra that I was with that weekend, it was Kimora. So I asked, is it Kimora? He says to me, no, Kat. So I asked him, who is Kat? And when I put the phone down, General Sibiya, I called Senra. I asked Senra, who is Kat? Then Senra says to me, That's Mr. Matlala. The one who gave us the sponsor. He says, yes, but why is he telling me that he was arrested? And he never phoned me after that. So we've never discussed Matlala. We've never sat together with Matlala.
No problem.
With Sibia. Thank you.
General, while I really do not want to know about your personal medical procedures, I just want to speak to the allegation that it was funded.
Yes.
And you have categorically denied it. You've explained the funds in your account. However, I would just want to find out, is there any truth that you were at the facility of a Medicare 24? And secondly, I would just then ask, did you get any special treatment? Did you get any discounts? Did you get anything of that nature, not direct payment or someone paid for you? Was there any incentives given to you for any procedure? And I don't want to know about the procedures itself.
As we sit here, I don't even know where the facility of Medicare 24 is. In my line of work, I never had to deal, not only Medicare 24, I don't deal with contractors or service providers, save to ask them for sponsorship. And thirdly, I have never benefited from any of, I don't know what they do outside what they did for subs. So I've never benefited.
Chair, I don't know how much time I have left.
Do you want to ask a question?
No, I've got a few questions, but if my time is finished, then I will rest.
You ask a question and then you look at me.
General, maybe you can just answer it in one go for me, so I hope it's not overwhelming. But if the dockets were removed from the investigators that were handling them, who would have effectively gained operational control of the investigation? And in your professional experience, is the movements of these sensitive dockets sometimes capable of disrupting the investigations? And would that have then been an advantage to any individual to have them actually, I want to call it an orchestrated disruption? I think that's the easiest way I can ask that in one question. Thank you, Chair.
In the value chain of security, the human factor is always the weakest. Where you've got human beings and hands, I think things are likely to be manipulated. Where I sit, we facilitate the movement of dockets. We make sure that the investigator who's receiving sits with the other investigator. There's a briefing, then the diary is updated so that you don't actually interfere with the chain of custody, and they keep in touch should there be any further interaction. However, as I say, this is not a perfect process. Where there's a human element, people can deliberately then interfere with the process. But again, as I said earlier, I wouldn't have examples where I have dealt with such. Thank you very much, Honorable.
You still have 2 minutes.
As Honorable Breitenbach West tells me, it's a limit, not a target. Thank you, Chair.
Or she says you must stop. The EFF, who is starting?
I am starting with just one question, then she will take the rest of my time.
Okay.
Lieutenant General, yourself and General Tema, both of your medical procedures were done by Dr. Pett.
Yes.
Do you know, may her soul rest in peace, do you know Dr. Pett's husband?
Unfortunately, I don't. I didn't have a personal relationship with her to that far.
Dr. Pett's husband is an ANC regional secretary in Tshwane called George Machile. So now it's important that people at your level, especially with your training, appreciate the company they keep, because it comes back to bite you.
True.
And especially a female lieutenant general who has worked so hard to be where you are, gets to be destroyed by association with lunatics. Because if we're to look for a female general of the police, commissioner of the police, I think you stand a very good chance. But it is these nuances that are going to cause a serious problem. And people who know how you guys get trained, especially on intelligence and counterintelligence, there is no way. Because when I met Matlala for the first time, I couldn't miss him. I didn't know him. And I asked someone, who's this guy? And they explained to me, this is so and so. Later they said he wants to greet me. I said, no, I don't want. And that has been my stance throughout. You are a human being, you go around, you go to parties, go to funerals, and you're going to meet all kinds of characters. But a person in opposition must have the capacity to detect that there is something wrong with what is happening here and be able to immediately withdraw. That's why most credible judges, it doesn't matter how painful it becomes for them, they're not part of a lot of social gatherings because they avoid coming into contact with wrong people. And those people are going to end up appearing before them. So I thought, because I'm not asking questions, I must say those few remarks to you as a black sister. Please, you can't work so hard and have a moment that destroys everything that you have built for yourself. And that's why even children will make an attempt to do suicide because they don't know their mother to be a criminal. And now when she gets to be projected as a criminal, it frustrates all of them. Like, my mother has been this honorable person, a woman of integrity, who enforces the law without fear or favor. The next thing stories are told about your mother, it's bound to affect them. So I'm just saying, this is not the end of the road. I think this is just the beginning of life. I mean, everything is a lesson. Going forward, you should be aware, especially as an intelligence-trained person, you should be aware always about your surrounding. Thank you very much, Chair. Over to you, Honorable Mathys. I'm in charge now, whether Kusala likes it or not.
Let there be love. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, President.
Honorable Mathys, wait. Because I'm the one who presides over him. Honorable Malama.
We do have a habit of expropriating without compensation. Sorry, Chair.
Honorable Malama presides over the EFF meetings. So now let me tell you what time is it and recognize you to speak. It's now 28 minutes to 5. Your time starts now.
Thank you, Chair. Well, my president pretty much covered me, but I just wanted Lieutenant General, just as another woman, to say when I read through your CV, okay, I'm getting teary now. I must not pull a Sarah Jane trend. When I read through your CV, I was like, wow, we actually have women of this level in our country, and we always told that they're not enough African women like that. They're also not enough of our young girls that know the spaces that they can be in. So I also just want to give you an opportunity to tell her, you're also getting teary, or we're going to have a moment.
But I won't pull a...
There's nothing, tears is not a bad thing, don't worry. I say that in EFF all the time. I'm a crybaby in EFF, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. What made you get into the space? Because you started off and you served a good 10 years at what was then called the state NIA, and now it's the SSA. So what led you there? Was it accidental or it was deliberate?
State security was deliberate.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's based on my history, I think, at the university, and I think most of my colleagues who were together there were already there. So it was a conscious decision that this is where I want to join.
And then why did you move to SAPS?
Growing through the ranks, I remember in 2008 when I actually came back from, 7, when I came back from Northern Cape, I started working internally within counterintelligence and I went to Nqola, then there was a request that actually there is an opening in SAPS for a director for counterterrorism. And I want to declare here that, Honorable Malema, whatever I do in my life, regardless of what is being said, money has never been a motivator. I think I fought hard to work as a woman. By the way, if I can say on national TV, I'm divorced twice, so I'm not a person who craves attention. I think I can hold it, can hold the knife,
Amen.
you know. Yeah, I'm not available though, but I'm just saying that I'm divorced twice. So meaning that money for me was never a motivator, because when I moved from state security to SAPS, I was already very senior, and I took a salary cut to join the police. And for a reason that most of the guys who were sitting in my interview thought that I was way too experienced, and also they wouldn't be able to match my salary. So when they gave me an offer, I think as a way to show that, you know what, I'll prove that I'm not here for money, I then took the offer.
So what did you think that you were going to achieve more at SAPS than you would at State Security Agency? I would think the State Security Agency is a little bit more elite.
And I think otherwise, because I've been there.
Yeah, you would know better.
Yes. In state security, we're talking assessments, we're talking probably estimates. I've seen in the Northern Cape our products contributing to crime fighting, like for example, on organized crime. I think at some time we had an issue of right-wing extremism in the Calvinia, Bosman area, where you definitely saw your efforts. But at national, because you are overarching, you don't see where those products are leading, particularly in tackling organized crime. So me moving to SAPS was about expanding what I've learned and to be able to use it to guide investigators to be able to catch those that we have identified as our targets.
Okay, this is just quickly.
And maybe to add, I feel as if for SAPS, your currency is based on arrests. So you can see what you're doing. And that excited me.
Just quickly, we had a character, which I'm sure you know, as Brown Mokotsi, that was here. And he said he was an agent. Is that how you trained agents?
First off,
just give us a little bit, now that we actually have a professional. Like how would someone that was not an agent, what are they called? Operative? No,
he called himself an agent.
Yes, he did. Okay.
First off, just to clarify, we still state security because we are civilian. We don't call our informers informants. We call them agents. That's why you would hear the concept, your principal agent network. That person who handles other people to be able to get information. But in intelligence, you actually have informants. So the agents are actually our own members who then go undercover.
No, explain that again. So in SAPS, under the crime intelligence.
Yes, an agent is a SAPS member who is exfiltrated out of the system, erased from the system, and actually we could call him either as your infiltration agent or maybe penetration would have been from inside. But he will work with the syndicate, you know. But there's legislation around it, and please don't make me go further.
No, we do want to know because we also have to make a decision about this at some point. So you were here. So I'm sure you heard some of his testimony both in the commission and here. So we tell us if that would be some sort of training or what you would have.
If, for example, he is from outside the organization, then he would become an informer.
Okay.
So we have got an informer network. As I said, a former member who is exfiltrated then becomes an agent. And you never get to know them. They're not on our systems. We don't even see them or know them.
And would they go around saying they are an informer?
No, because that actually would be blowing their cover and compromising their operation.
Clarity, thank you. We just want to go quickly. Let's start off with the disbandment of PKTT. So Lieutenant General Kunazi said that that was actually a mistake in identity because there were PKTT members that moved to Gauteng to assist. what's your take? Was it PKTT, members of the PKTT that arrested Nqola?
The advantage I have in responding to your question is that I didn't have the information they had. I only had an instruction and a plan. So I had when he said that. So probably I'm sure he wouldn't just say it was based on knowledge that they had as to why there was that mistaken identity.
But you were in charge that time of these dockets and the arrests and overseeing Gauteng, and it happened in Gauteng. So when that whole arrest happened, you didn't know absolutely anything about it.
I thought you were asking me about the dockets and the fact that maybe in following the dockets, it was a matter of thinking that the PKTT was the team that made the arrests in Gauteng.
Oh, okay. No.
Yeah.
No, the question here is that he's characterized that whole, has characterized this disbandment of PKTT, right, as it was a mistake in identity, and then this is how this whole thing has just been blown out of proportion. Yeah.
So these sergeants who were working on the Amanswart matter, when the issue of compromise or security breach came, they approached General Mbuso Khumalo, who approached me. I approached General Khumalo to say, take over this team. So maybe the people then thought it came from KwaZulu-Natal. Actually started here in Gauteng. Yes.
Are there cartels in South Africa?
Cartel, I think, is a big word.
What word would you use?
See, if you look at the history of your organized crime, so your mafia would be linked to families, né? And your cartels, it's now when all the big bosses of the families of the mafia come together for a purpose, then it's called a cartel. I have not evidenced that in the investigation. Maybe there is, maybe we are missing it. But in your typical organized crime countries like your Mexico, your Colombia, your Brazil, those exist.
Are we getting there? Are we heading in that direction?
If we let things spiral out of control by not addressing organized crime, I think we can easily spiral into that direction.
And then the big five, what do you know about it? I mean, I'm sure it's either under investigation, but is there some sort of reality, and is there some prima facie evidence to...
When you conduct your organized crime investigation, you are bound by the trade to do your link analysis. And I think when the team did their link analysis and identified people who actually are part of that particular syndicate, I would say that it was not done lightly. It was done based on either documentary evidence or evidence from your digital space that actually links the individuals.
Were you part of that process?
I wasn't.
Would be part of a process like that.
Yes.
Because you're pretty senior and got organized car crime background. It's quite,
Respectfully to the committee members through you, Chair, we would not know anything and everything as generals in the police, and I'll tell you why. I gave an example where 2 weeks ago we were sitting in a meeting and then there was a compromise of that particular meeting. And that's why you cannot know all the dockets, because it could be a friend of mine. I mean, we are human beings, not that actually we would give out the information. For that matter, I actually led my own nephew to the police station to get arrested when he attempted to rape my niece. So law for me is law, and law doesn't look at families or who works for what. So what I'm saying is that you are not bound to know everything. Even the National Commissioner wouldn't know everything about the cartels, about the individuals.
But cartels, Lieutenant General, is a big thing in organized crime.
Yeah.
So we're not asking about one of so many cases of rape. So a cartel or a mafia, so to speak.
An example I can give is with the gangs in the Western Cape. So we would know, for example, the type of gangs. I mean, in Westbury, for example, Advocate is here. Sorry, Honorable James is here. Those, because they are within organized crime. But in probably, let's say, in our briefing with the members, if some would slip into our hands, it doesn't mean that we were ignorant. Probably it could have been that at that time we didn't know.
Okay, let's go to General Jacobs. Why did you call him and not send him a formal or whatever the formal process was for him to release the files?
And if maybe let's look at my responsibility and his responsibility as he would have been with ESCOM. If Advocate Johnson writes down and says, this is a docket for IDEC, and this docket is based on Section 28, and General Jacobs has those dockets. Understanding the system, I know that IDEC does not have a system where a docket is registered, is moved to IDEC. So they will have to ask the dockets from SAPS. So mine was to say, General Jacobs, she's to say that you keeping those dockets. I think one of the things she wrote was that the complainant was.
But initially, from what you said, and you'll clarify, is that she called you and asked you. For intervention.
Yes.
Then you called and then you asked her to send an email.
No, actually, I asked her to send an email first before I called.
You called Jacobs, just send him or even forward him the email.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when you spoke to Jacobs, Lieutenant General
Jacobs, yes.
Did he not even tell you, or there was no even discussion on why he didn't want to send these files? Because you should have been irritated that you even have to intervene when these files should go.
I think that's the unfortunate part, because neither he or Advocate Johnson specified, but understanding the nature
you keep saying that, Lieutenant General. What I'm getting to, it's that it's a bit bizarre that you are called to intervene to get these files, right? And then no one even randomly mentions what these files about. So you even have to call Jacobs, who's actually hiding these files. And then he doesn't even mention, or you don't even ask, but why are you not giving the files to Advocate Johnson?
Maybe let me start by explaining the process where a high-profile case is registered. And I think I'll start with the one of General Sibia and Minister Mthum. The DPC has an obligation to call and inform me, and I inform the National Commissioner. And I think the same happened in the Western Cape when the National Commissioner's case was open. So in that case, I would have known. Probably I would have known, okay, now there's a docket against General Khumalo. At that time, there was no report, either to me or to...
But you're not answering. I'm saying... You said to me that Jacobs did not even tell you these files are in relation to, and you weren't curious on why he did not want to even send these files to Advocate Johnson. Because it's very like...
For me, maybe now on hindsight, and in vendor, we say, Madi Otebo, it means the water has already spilled, but I can talk to it, you know. He could have said, General, can we discuss the matter? I think that would have made a huge difference for me, because him and I work, I mean, even today we are very close. So he could have done that. But I suppose maybe at that time, either there was discomfort or maybe, I don't know.
Why haven't you acted on him, though, for keeping those files in his safe or wherever he kept them?
I posted here on the statement, that there's a letter from General Hanker that there is no policy regulating their taking the documents. And for that reason, even if you actually want to act on a person based on what. However, the practice is that we don't take the dockets away from the station. So it's what we always preach. Rather, we make copies of it.
No, but Lieutenant General, this is the bit layered, right? So outside, let's even park that he didn't, the statement's been taken from the station, right? It was in his safe. You had to even get a call and an email from Advocate Johnson to get it, and you still call him. It can't just be that can just be parked. It was a deliberate, and it's not one file.
it's a set of files on a particular matter, and in retrospect, you can see what the issue was, and you still haven't acted on it.
Can I request that maybe General Jacobs be given an opportunity to clarify why he had those dockets actually in
But
a sense?
that was your job to find out, not ours. You
No,
should
no,
be coming
I'm not
I
saying
did
you.
X, Y,
I am
Z,
not saying you.
and
Yeah.
etc. Okay, so let's move on from there. I think you've answered that. Were you surprised? Oh, when Lieutenant General Khumalo was arrested, what was your personal response to it?
I sent him a WhatsApp message, not only him. I sent Zippo, I called General Kabela, I sent Likalakala. I work with all of them. Like I said, I was really, and I can give you my phone. You can just see Khumalo and I, and because my father is a Khumalo, we call each other Put, you know, since even now when he calls me, he says, "Sis, I say Put," you know. So I really was one of those who were just shocked and hurt. But I can show you my phone. I did text him to say, Mbulazi, I am really hurt and I hope it's going to come to pass.
Were you surprised that something like this could have happened? Not that you guys on the top, Lieutenant General, should be above the law, but the way it happened and how it happened.
Maybe knowing Khumalo and having worked with him, he's never struck me as a person who can actually walk the other path, you know. And I think at the time when I saw the arrest, I was not aware of the issues that led to the arrest. I had to read later. But I must say that I was surprised.
There was a meeting, that meeting in February 2022, where the IMC agreed that the PKTT should be enhanced and continue its operations. And that was the last meeting that you remember.
I think there was another meeting in 2023. We will have to check the minutes, but that meeting, I know I didn't attend, the last meeting that was there.
Then that meeting on the 6th of March 2025, it was the National Commissioner, Lieutenant General Mosikele, Khumalo, and they took a position. Do you think the position was taken against the minister? Clearly.
For me,
as the Deputy National Commissioner and the Chief of Staff, because we were made to understand that this was the position that was expressed in the meeting. So you were there. Did you express an opinion in the meeting?
General Khumalo and I remember we were presenting, so we were not necessarily participating. So the principals, which would be the DNC, the NATCOM, were the ones who were actually discussing. But also because we are the ones who came with the proposal, that on its own says that we were actually for the winding down approach.
Okay, we're going to wrap up right about now. So you spoke earlier that SAPS members are, because of these proceedings, I guess both the ad hoc and the commission that's going on, they are kind of being forced to pick a side or pick sides.
And I didn't say that we are forced to pick sides. I say by virtue of your testimony, then you are attached to a faction, or you are attached.
So they are faction.
Yeah, people would say, no, this one is from Kwanazi, this one is for the Kunuti, you know. But I think for me, it shouldn't be, and I'm talking about generals that I know, that I've worked with, who actually are not even part of this whole thing. They are observing it from a distance. I mean, we are in it. And I've never experienced them choosing a side.
So what are we going to do as South Africans? Because if lieutenant generals and the rest of you on that highest level there is cannot find each other because you'll spend more time opening cases against each other, getting people to go and do you know how many sworn statements we have here, Lieutenant General? I don't even know what we're going to do during deliberations because we don't even have an investigator. Maybe you can send us some. I was throwing shade at Honorable Sangoni, but she didn't get it. She didn't get it. But I'm saying, what is going to happen? Because if lieutenant generals on that level, if you all are not protecting us, and you all are spending so much time opening cases, I mean, this was also a question. Lieutenant General Pahlani, Was it procedural, or was it out of character for the Northwest to conduct that whole investigation into O'Sullivan and Paula Jane Trent? Sarah Jane Trent.
I actually don't have details, I think, about that investigation.
But it was done in
Yes.
Northwest. So my question is not the details, but is it something that would normally be done, and what circumstances would they need to
The
be?
process is, if, for example, let's say we're dealing with the CITs and we require expert skills that will come from provinces. So we can convene a team. But for me, it is about fighting a crime sketch that has become unmanageable for the country. In relation to this one, honestly, I think I would rather reserve my view because I don't know what actually prompted the entire investigation.
It all went to, that's what his testimony, or his sworn statement said. It was just, everything was just there in Northwest. So it wasn't a matter of what you were saying, bringing criminals in, but you don't want to talk to it.
I've never been involved in such a practice. So if I give an
So it
opinion,
was a very bizarre and unfounded thing. Okay. I want to talk about this, and Honorable Malema touched on it. The thing about being at that party. I'm not even a trained intelligence agent or whatever, but that whole setup, as you described it, you have the wife of someone come and sit next to you, there with your friend. You don't think that your friend, who is it? Tem, was actually trying to introduce you. I mean, it actually looks like Lieutenant General Sabia, he had these parties to link up members of SAPS with criminals. Or maybe they weren't all criminals, but with business people or people that need favors from SAPS. And that is what those parties were all about. Because it was not about, from what I understand, networking and, SAPS members finding each other and building teamwork. So when did Lieutenant General Khumalo stop attending the parties, or was he stopped being invited to the parties?
as I said, General Sabia would change. At like the initial General Khumalo was the one invited, né? And then later it was myself and others who were being invited. But I want to clarify.
No, but what I'm asking is that you sure it was an invite related, or it wasn't that Lieutenant General Khumalo just stopped coming and was still invited?
They were not talking.
Okay, and when did this happen?
I'm not certain.
More or less?
I would say around last year.
Okay.
Yeah, last year, because then I would
before the press conference of
year before last.
Okay.
2024, not
Okay.
2025. Yes. Yes.
So I want to, so these parties, and then have you engaged Major General Temba about the role? Because perhaps she's also involved in this whole thing of networking and setting up. It makes no sense. And I am not even on your level. And I would have known straight away that this is very dodgy. And then the next minute she's saying, oh yeah, his number, call him, ask him for fridges. And then respond to that. And then the next question, if you can also respond to, well, how much was those fridges that were donated that Lieutenant General Sabia even got?
I think it was 3,999. I think.
4,000 rand.
Yeah, it was small bar fridges. I think I didn't even see any of them. But also, if I may proceed, and I know how it's projected. For me, this becomes one of the saddest moments, because when we went there was no preoccupation about who's going to be there. We didn't know. And as I said that, there were times where actually I wouldn't go to these parties, There were times where, for example, I would say, no, man, But then I think on that day, because he's like, General, come, we're having something in the house, and we go. And I said to General Tema, there was no discussion. General Sabia himself said at some point to me that actually you are a very good woman. I don't project two faces. Yes, I'm an operative, honorable madam. But what you see is what you get. When I'm angry, you see it. And when I don't want something, I then say it. But then there are times where I feel I can't go on. You know what? Let's just go with the flow. And I think probably for me, that was the mistake of that day. Because when something says to you, don't go to a place, and you go, this would not have happened. However, those were not hookup parties. We go to General Sibia's.
And not hookups as in sex hookups.
No.
I'm saying as in,
I am not even.
no, not those.
Yeah.
Not those ones.
I think
Just like
your thoughts took
business
you
people
too far.
to do favors.
Yes.
Yeah.
I must say your thoughts took you too far. When I was saying, I was
Oh,
thinking
it's
about.
Honorable Sangoni that was looking at me in
Yeah.
her mind somewhere.
But actually, there's nothing more I can say to convince anybody otherwise that this was just an innocent going to a party. And again, there was no intent in terms of asking for that sponsorship. For that reason, I didn't even see one of the activities. I didn't get any one of them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
I understand. I understand your concern.
Honorable
Thank you so much,
Klopper,
Honorable
we shall take a
Mathys.
20 minutes break.